Welcome to the Anchored Mind podcast.
I'm Kristen,
And I'm Michael.
and we are on a mission to redefine care by combining counseling, nutrition, and fitness so that you can live a better life.
That's right. And on this episode, we are going to get a little heavy. We call this one, You Can't Stop the Storms. And it's all about how there are just going to be unpredictable factors that influence conflict.
And not to try to avoid it, right?
Not to avoid it, because you can't. In the end, it's an opportunity to connect.
And weather it together, I guess.
Weather it together so we grow stronger together. But we also end up learning so much more about each other, ideally. Alternative being, these storms break us apart.
Cool. Let's jump in.
Let's do it. So, you want to talk about our last fight?
Of course.
How did it start?
It was a Saturday morning.
Yeah, and I was probably some combination of halt, which was hungry and definitely tired.
There was a little pressure on us. We were going to get ready to go hiking, right?
Yeah, that's true. So fault, pressure, hungry, tired. Not angry or lonely. Yeah, and I remember I just had to say something, you know? It was one of those where she must know what's in my mind.
I think you walked in to a situation that was kind of already going on. I think you walked into me and one of our daughters kind of like trying to work through a tough issue, right? Isn't that how it started?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know, I'm trying to remember the details, but it's funny how we don't remember. We remember how we felt, but we don't necessarily remember what the conflict was.
Yes, absolutely. Every time.
Yeah.
We forget it so quickly. However, I used to hold on to arguments and remember all the details. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
But now I feel like if we repair well, we kind of forget them.
Yeah, that's true.
But back to last Saturday.
Yeah, and this one took a little longer to repair, which is why we thought, oh, this is a good one to talk about. All right, so what I remember was, circumstances weren't ideal. The context matters. And I had to speak into what I was observing, which was, hey, do you think that I tried to word it really carefully, if we as parents of our oldest daughter were intentional about spending more one-on-one time together, because that's something I want to do too, do you think that quality time would help the dynamic when things get tough, like when emotions start rising up in our little ones, especially her? And
I'm already laughing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm priming us for this. But just to add some more perspective to it, I think from my vantage point, I really want you to enjoy a closer relationship with her for many reasons. One, because I think she's wired like your mom. And I do think there can be some tension between you two because she doesn't always feel like she gets the attention from you. And I think you don't always feel like she can like pause that need and show up in the way that you need her to, especially as the oldest sister, or when you're in task mode and you need her to kind of like adjust.
Jump in.
Yeah. Jump in and help, or, hey, it's not about connection and relationship time right now. It's kind of like mommy needs to get some things done, or I need your help to get things done.
Yeah. I'm just already laughing because I'm starting to go back to that moment and remember how I perceived things as you were saying them, and how like being on the other side of what you were saying was so much different than sitting here after the argument talking about it. It's just so much different.
Well, I'd love to hear your perspective. I
just remember immediately feeling like on the defense from the start. Like from the first couple words you were saying, I was just like reading into it like, here he goes. He's gonna nitpick this apart. He's gonna give me feedback on what's going on. He's trying to help me do something different. And here I am like building this case of how hard I've been working at this particular relationship, trying to learn and grow. And I feel like we have made so much progress, and that one moment doesn't really define, even though I didn't feel like it was a bad moment, it was just maybe like an ugly moment because we were just sitting in maybe what feels like a difference of temperament and tension. And
you anticipated me being critical.
I wouldn't even say I anticipated it. I think I felt it whether that's right or whether that's wrong, I took what you were saying as like trying to quote, like, help me change what I'm doing, like as if what I was doing was not okay. And that was really hard in that moment because you're in the ickiness, and you're working really hard to try and get yourself out of that situation.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, just being real, because that's why we're doing this, right? I remember in the moment even sensing that you felt like you were being corrected or
Yeah.
that I was trying to fix in some way, like fix a problem, which is typically what we do as men, right? And I think even just, this sounds bad, but even just being tired and hungry and us being on a time schedule, like it was almost like that just made me lazy in that moment. I think I knew I could have recovered or rebounded in some way. And so even right now, talking about it, I hope you'll forgive me, give me some grace, because I think I did at that point drop the ball and just I could have recovered, but I didn't.
Well, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate that because I feel like the timing and the delivery could have helped prevent the argument. But as we talked through it, I mean, I think that I had a lot of things I was responsible for in preventing that argument as well.
Yeah, it's just funny, like us sitting here recording a podcast. Of course, we're going to have like our cortex, in play. So we're sitting here regulated.
Yeah.
Emotions aren't
I know, it's totally different.
rampant. So there's almost like an accountability of next time we get in a fight, we should just mic up and.
But this is seriously, like you say that, but this has been a huge difference for me since we got married, because when we get into an argument, we literally like sit and talk about it, break it down, rehash it, work through it, figure out, like, you really feel the need to be understood by me, not just like me listen, but verbalize understanding. And all that to me is kind of like what you're saying. Like, we get to sit here like, we're not in the midst of that argument anymore. And we get to sit here and talk about it and like make a plan and talk about how we felt, but we're not activated like we were at that minute.
We have the gift of hindsight.
Yeah. So that, to me, that's made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's true. Back to the conflict though. Before it became a fight, we were just in that tension moment. I think one point that's really important is that we were both already kind of compromised. I'm saying, hey, I was a little pressured with time, and so I was probably stressed and hungry and tired. And then you were in the midst of tension with our oldest daughter, trying to manage it. You probably already feel a little bit of pressure on top of that because, most of the moments with her, I'm not at home, and here I am at home.
Yeah.
And so I imagine you're.
And I'm also like, I really want to get hiking, and this is taking forever. Yeah. And I'm really excited this is Saturday, and why is this happening? And
you really like having that sense of control with the routine and the flow and the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted it to be logical for 1 minute and just like move forward. And it wasn't.
Yep.
So it was already tough for me, and I felt like I was in it and I was doing the work. And yeah.
I think what sucks, and this may bring up, some of the emotions that you were feeling, because it's bringing it up for me, is I saw that. I even like sensed that. And here I am, your husband, her father, like I'm trying to come in and be helpful. I also happen to be a therapist, so I think I have some extra perspective to be helpful. And it's my heart's desire to be helpful, right? That's how I contribute. And so when I come in and even try and like gently offer just a different perspective, it was kind of a letdown, and maybe even feeling rejected to try and add some value. And then you essentially be like, well, no, not only do I not need that, I don't need you like speaking into what I've been working so hard on, which is also a valid perspective,
Yeah.
Because in your defense, I'm not around as much to see all the effort that you're putting in and how you both are developing a relationship together. And so in a way, like from your vantage point, it's unfair.
But when I sit here and when we talked through the argument and when we got to a good place at the end, I really felt like what you had to share was very helpful. Like, I really feel like it is a good.
That's the first time I heard that.
I think it maybe is.
We should do this more often.
I don't know if I have said it that way.
No, you haven't. This is great. Keep going.
I think that it is like good advice. I really do.
I wasn't trying to give advice, but thank you.
Like, I think that it would help. And I think that what we talked about was like a good plan for how to approach our relationships with our kids. And
I really tried to word it where, hey, this is something I would like for us to get to experience with them, just one-on-one time with each of them. And, having 3 kids, and then also in my job, getting to sit with adults who used to be children, especially in larger families, they didn't have that kind of quality time with their parents. And the classic traditional narrative is dad was always at work. And these days, maybe mom was too. And we were at school, or we were at our grandparents, or we were with a nanny or daycare or whatever, And so we didn't get that quality time with our parents. And not to say that every kid who has those type of care is going to end up in therapy. There's going to be all these problems to fix. That's not what I'm saying. But I think we have certain values in our family that we try and practice, and we really want connection with each of our kids and to build a relationship with each of them. And I think specifically when I see one of our kids having a harder time regulating their emotion, to me it screams an unmet need. And to clearly state this on record in a podcast, I don't think you are to blame for that. It's not as simple as mom is responsible for the attachment with her oldest daughter. It's not that simple, because there's a lot of complexity that goes into that.
I hold that responsibility.
I know you do.
Yeah.
And I need to be aware of that when I communicate with you and approach it very carefully. But what I do think is happening is she has big feelings. That's how she was designed. That's how she was uniquely created. And there are things objectively that can be practiced in our family and in our parenting that will be helpful for her to be able to regulate better. But we know, like, one of those big needs is she does need attention and affection, regular doses of it. She's very social. And I don't think that means just from mom. So you don't have to carry all that pressure.
So how do when we go back to that moment of like, I was sitting on the floor with our daughter, having this discussion, there's a lot of emotions, and like, I know where we ended up in the conversation and in the argument, but how do we go back to that moment? And how do I prevent myself from feeling defensive? Because I really do value your input. Like, so much of our marriage has developed based on your input. I mean, you and I just really we really honor each other's, perspective. And I really do in this moment, but it's hard to hear sometimes when you're activated or in your middle.
Yeah, I know this is going to sound really bad, but I think we have to honor our humanity and our imperfection and the struggle of this. And if I were, a member of a married couple listening to this, I wouldn't want to hear any BS. I would want to hear the truth. And the raw truth is that you can't prevent moments like that because they're emotional. And emotions are often not chosen. So the fact that you're sitting there on the floor activated, your cortex is compromised, and your limbic system is churning and burning. And it's not just because of that moment. Your limbic system is heavily based on the past. So you're basically saying, how do we pretend that you're not a human that has had years of lived experience and relationship, and it's all culminating into this one moment, and it's like a volcano? Multiply that times 2, I can't do math. Add 2 more humans to that mix, right? And you have our oldest daughter, and then you have me, and like, we all have our own unique experiences. And what's wild about it, as far as I know of the anatomy, we're all 3 of us in that moment are like 5-year-olds. She's actually a 5-year-old, but our brains are compromised to the point where they are functioning like 5-year-olds. Sure, we have all this knowledge that we've gained and experienced, but a lot of times, just like when someone's drunk, it kind of goes out the window. And you're just this vulnerable human with all the feelings from all the things that you've experienced before.
It's so funny. It's the first time I've actually thought about it that way, because I keep thinking as we go through this conversation, like, how do I prevent that from happening next time? When really you're saying, like sit in the emotions,
Yeah.
and you're not going to prevent it. It's actually how you repair from it, I'm guessing, is what you're going to say.
Yeah. Gold standard would be, and we practiced this. So I think this is just one of the moments where there was a combination of all of us being compromised. I mean, but ideally, you're able to say, "Hey, honey, that did not land really well," or here's how I took it, or here's how that made me feel. And then where we are in our marriage, maybe in the past I wouldn't have received it that well. We've gotten defensive and made it about me, personalized it. But where we are now, I would have received that with, "Oh man, I'm sorry that what I said landed that way." And also, maybe not, because I was compromised too in that moment.
Yeah.
So there's
It's
just
a
too many
perfect storm.
variables to predict. Yeah, I mean, I think the hope is on our best days, we have our morning routine that hopefully includes some type of physiological engagement, which regulates our mind and body. And we come in way more free and relaxed and confident and connected and all the things, but it's just not going to happen every day. And on a Saturday morning, I'm not waking up to work out, or I'm just going to probably sleep as long as I can, roll out of bed. We have a lot going on these days,
Yeah.
and those mornings are so sacred, right? But they do tee us up to be a little bit more unpredictable. And I think that's what happened. It was like a perfect storm.
So if it was the perfect storm then, and let's say we experience that again, I guess let's walk through, like, it took us a while to actually repair from this argument. So, like, maybe, like, what did we do well and what did we not do well? And how do you get through a perfect storm, I guess?
Yeah, it's a great question for us because we're still on this journey trying to, I
Mhm.
wouldn't even say perfect it. We're just trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
And that means repairing faster, which I need to brag on us. We have done really great at protecting our connection and repairing faster. Also, reducing the frequency of conflicts, making sure they stop at conflict and don't escalate into fight. That's, side note, the real danger, right? If we're getting into fight and we're getting into moving past the original conflict, we're either forgetting about what we were fighting about originally. Now we're just fighting to fight. We might even be fighting about the fight or fighting how we fight, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you always do this," or keeping score and moving into a level where there's irreparable damage. And that's the kind of stuff that causes, these deep gashes
Yeah.
and wounds. And then we have way more to clean up from that. For most of us, that was like early in our marriage, right? And for us, that's true. But now, being several years in, almost a decade, we've definitely gotten better at repairing faster. I think the reason this one went the distance, we didn't, and I actually blame the circumstances for this. We didn't really have time or space to process it. I think we patched it up thinking that was good enough. Got everyone in the car, got dressed and went to go hiking, and then it came back up on the hike.
Yeah.
And clever me, I thought I had better words and better timing. I thought, all right, we're back to a state of regulation. We've been moving, we're in nature. This is a good time to bring it back up. Well, I think it went better, but I don't think it repaired us. I think I was being selfish and just trying to reaffirm my idea of this quality time, this one-on-one, like,
Mm.
hey, just think about it some more. Hey, and I think you received it like a sales pitch and I was being pushy.
Yeah.
You probably didn't feel honored or respected. And you made a counterpoint that was super valid, which is, hey, I'd rather, instead of you presenting something to me or even pushing something, I'd rather you be curious. And we had this moment where we're snacking and talking it through. And as frustrated as I felt because I didn't feel heard or understood, I did hear you. And I know the approach would have been way better if I was maybe leaning in and asking more questions. Last piece, I do think what was hard for me though was, and maybe this is me being arrogant, I didn't I didn't think I needed to ask any questions. I didn't need any information. The questions probably would have been more for you to like soften the approach a bit more.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would have been effective. But even in hindsight, I don't know what I could have asked.
But have you ever been in it, in that moment with someone, or just tension in a situation, and had someone walk up and kind of know the answer? to what you're going through. Have you felt that and know what that,
I can imagine
yeah.
how frustrating that would be. Yeah.
Even if it's the right answer, it's like, it's just hard when you're not the one that's in it. Or, it's hard when you're the one that is in it and you're experiencing it and and you're working really hard to try and do your best and someone comes in with advice. That's just a hard,
Yeah. I definitely do. And I don't want to come in with advice, but
and you don't do that
or
regularly, but
more importantly, that's okay. More importantly, I definitely understand that this relationship in particular with our oldest daughter is sacred to you. Like you really want to nail it.
mhm.
It means a lot on many levels. We don't have enough time in this podcast episode to go into that. maybe in a future episode, we can unpack what our oldest daughter represents to you. And so as your husband, who I think understands you on a deep level, not to should on myself, but I should have known that I was treading on sacred ground and approached it more carefully.
Yeah, I think the approach would have made all the difference. I think I would have been able to transition from like being activated towards receiving
Yeah.
like information a little bit better, probably.
But I didn't. And not once, but twice. I very assertively and confidently came in like someone who felt like a knight in shining armor trying to save the day. And yeah.
But what I do need to say is that in our situations, both of us verbalizing responsibility has been really helpful for us. Like
Oh, yeah.
and so my responsibility in this particular argument is continuing to practice like verbalizing my defensiveness and not acting it out towards you, because I think I immediately just like felt defensive and acted
Dismissed
that
what I was
way
saying. Yeah.
immediately. And it was just, I really had trouble being like, I'm feeling defensive and let me ask you to, approach this a little differently or something. But that would have helped. It would have helped us prevent escalation like we did.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely the one that carried the escalation.
We walked away from that second attempt agreeing that I would practice curiosity and lead with questions.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you would practice assuming positive intent.
Yes. And when you say that, what we've talked about is just that you had your best, that there was no alternative motive, right?
Yeah, that even if I didn't wordsmith it in the most effective way, and let's say the approach was advicey or like preachy or whatever, fixy, that you, instead of taking it like I'm coming at you trying to correct you or fix something, that I know he's not wording it perfectly right now. I'll give him a little grace. I know his heart, and I know he really cares about helping support me and our oldest daughter, figure this out.
Yeah.
That's my dream scenario. But that also, I really truly recognize that that's also cutting out the unpredictability of what comes up for you when I approach you imperfectly. So I think in a perfect world, you have no emotion that comes up and you're like, oh yes, honey, thank you so much for being a great husband, father, and therapist and applying all those roles into this moment. But that's just not, that's why this was a perfect storm, because I have my unique experience, you have yours, and even our oldest daughter has hers, and it's just collided all at once. So let's kind of land the plane here. This was a trilogy for us because, part one was in the kitchen, part two was on the hiking trail, and then part three, I think, carried over into the next day because I think we had repaired it enough at the hike, but there was still, if we were honest, there was probably still some tension in both of us, and we never really circled back. So it carried over into the next day. We ended up missing church and just ended up having one of the biggest fights. And as embarrassing as that was, just because of like what we do for a living and how far we've come in our own marriage, we said some pretty terrible things to each other. Obviously, that was driven by raw emotion that was built up. Doesn't make it okay. But man, and to me, this is the most important part, even though we caused each other some damage, and it probably still lingers. The most important part was we had probably one of the most powerful repairs that I've ever experienced with anyone. I mean, not that I go around repairing with people, but one of the most powerful repairs that you and I have ever had, and definitely one of the most powerful repairs that I've ever seen, even as a therapist. It was very raw, and to give you a picture, I had pushed so much that she was in the restroom and had decided to not let me in, and probably was the best thing for us. It gave us a little break. And finally, with a softer tone and a very respectful request, she did open the door. And yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was almost like I got flooded with just, I think I was just very embarrassed. I felt a lot of shame and regret and guilt, and all of that just kind of came out. And I mean, I can't remember the last time I came to tears, probably that men's retreat. But this one was just like, I wanted you to hear at that moment how important you are to me, how much you mean to me, and how it was not okay, the things that came out of my mouth and how I treated you, and you don't deserve that. And just asked you to forgive me because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, that repair. Yeah, it was huge for us.
Yeah, a lot of emotion. Yeah.
Well, it was the biggest fight we've been in a very, very, very long time. So I think that was really hard on us to go through that. And so the repair was bigger, I guess, which is good.
Yeah.
But you have kind of taught me through a lot of your experience that the repair is even more important than what you went through, right? So than the argument itself.
The repair is the most important part.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it needs to be equivalent, if not greater, than the intensity of the fight, in my opinion. Yeah.
Cool. So practicing positive intent, taking responsibility, and a good repair, naming our emotion.
Yeah. I mean, we know all the things, right? I hate to say it, but therapy only gets you so far. It teaches you skills and tools and knowledge, and hopefully a good therapist is also going to have you practice some of this stuff in session. But really, the rubber meets the road back at home, in the kitchen, on the trail, in the bathroom. Like, that's where the skills that you're building are put to the test. And that's also literally how our brains rewire. For many of us, especially me, we're competing against the version of ourselves that grew up in our family's household. If your parents didn't have the best marriage, you're going to catch some of that. And then whatever you carry over into how you have relationships when you're out in the real world, when you're dating, a lot of stuff doesn't really get repaired from how you grew up until you're finally settled into a long-term relationship, married, starting a family. And then all that stuff just comes up. But that's also when it needs to be challenged, and over time, with repetition, just like going to the gym, you get stronger, you get more consistent, and your brain and your body they all rewire over time. And this is just us still in process. So here's a takeaway for you. If you resonated with what we shared, try and give assuming positive intent a try. And what that looks like is, the next time you feel frustrated at the way your partner communicated with you, remind yourself that they're probably doing their best. They're probably trying to help. And when you look at them at their best in your head, it typically can inform a better response. And that won't get you both stuck in a storm, in a crazy cycle, or a negative spiral. It's also helpful to lead with curiosity. Asking questions, leaning in can be very disarming. It can also be a great sign of respect. So, in summary, give assuming positive intent and practicing curiosity a try. And if you enjoyed and found what we shared to be helpful, subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Give us a like, drop a comment. We'd love to continue to stay connected, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.